Are you looking for something? Well, Excel can help you find it. There are several functions in Excel and different tools that you can use to find the data that you need. Today, we're going to primarily study XLOOKUP, but it's only available if you're using Microsoft Office Excel 2019 onwards, or you're using the online version of Excel. It's the best function right now available to Excel users to find the kind of data they need. Let's go learn that. Right, so here's our nice and tidy and small data sheet. Now, I always use a small data sheet because it makes it easier to learn and navigate throughout it. So let's go and see how the XLOOKUP works. We put an equal sign that tells Excel we're about to input a function, and then the function is XLOOKUP. And Excel has already brought that up. Now, when I click on XLOOKUP, the parenthesis opens, and this little box that I absolutely love and adore tells us how this function works. So the first input is lookup value. In other words, what are you looking for? Okay, let's imagine that I'm looking for Hamburg again. Hamburg, I put that in. It's asking me lookup area. In other words, where should I look for Hamburg? Well, it's this first column, so I'm going to put Command in Mac or Ctrl+Shift down. We've selected that. Next, it's telling me what is the return area that you're looking for. In other words, once I've found Hamburg, what do you want me to report back? So I want, for instance, the name of the manager of one of the stores in Hamburg. So I'm going to choose this column. And next is telling me, what do you want me to tell you if I didn't find it? This is really cool. You don't actually need to fill this part out. It will give you a #NA response, but in case you want a different message, then you can put that in. I'm going to just do that. I'm going to say I couldn't find it. We'll go through the rest of the elements later, but let's just see what the result is. I'm going to close the parenthesis, enter, and oh, I accidentally chose the emails. Fine, that's okay. It's showing us the result. So it's telling me that the email, let me give this a title, email of one of the Hamburg managers. And this is it. It's max.hamburg, ironically, at store.com. That doesn't sound fake at all. Now, let's take a look at the rest of the elements, what we can do with that. What would have happened if I had misspelled Hamburg? So like Habmerg. If I press enter, it'll give me the message, I couldn't find it. Remember, this was the message that we put. Okay, now, in case we mistype or we're looking for information that really doesn't exist, there's a solution for that. Now, if we go for the next element, it's asking me for the match mode. By default, the match mode is exact match, which means that it'll look for exactly what you've typed in, and if it doesn't find it, it'll just tell you that I couldn't find it. So you put a 0 or you just leave it blank if you're looking for an exact match, but sometimes you're not looking for an exact match. -1 will give you an exact match or the next smaller item. Now, next smaller item makes sense if we're talking about values that are numbers, but what happens when, for instance, Hamburg isn't a number, it's a text? In this case, it gives you the value that is alphabetically lower than what you search for. In other words, Hamburg. In other words, if you were to organize these names in an alphabetical order, if it cannot find Hamburg, it'll give you the first response or the first finding just before Hamburg. A 1 will give you an exact match or the next larger item. You can imagine what that means already. It means that if it doesn't find Hamburg, it will give you the value that is next if you organize this list alphabetically. And then there's number 2, which is wildcard character match. Now, wildcard character match is a little bit complicated, so we're not going to get into it now, but now you know how to learn Excel on your own, so you can learn it, or you can look for other courses or check our YouTube channel for an education on this. Now, I'm going to put the exact match or next smaller item and see what happens. Remember, I've misspelled Hamburg, so it's not going to be able to find Hamburg. And if I press enter, instead it's giving me Sebastian Cologne at store.com. Store.com. Now, Sebastian Cologne should belong to Frankfurt, and he does, because Frankfurt is alphabetically lower than Hamburg. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay, and if we continue with this, there's another element, comma. The next element is search mode. Now, by default, the search mode is on 1, which means search first to last. Remember that XLOOKUP will only give you one result. It won't find all of the results for you. For that, you can use the Ctrl+F function in the Excel software. So now that we're looking for our value, Excel gives us the option to dictate how the search is done. So 1 will search first to last. It will go from up to down. -1 will go the opposite way around, search last to first, so it will go from down to up. Let's try this one right now. -1 and enter. It's given us Christina Augsburg at store.com. And here's Christina Augsburg, and again it's Frankfurt, but it's the last Frankfurt in the list. That's cool. Now it also has a let me show you here, a 2 and a -2, and it's written binary search sorted ascending order, or binary search sorted descending order. Now you can only use these if you've already sorted data sheet. Okay, so if I like put binary search here and then press enter, I'm still gonna get a result. That's Anna Berlin. Well, I'm guessing that she's from Berlin. Okay, now let's see the final element here. Let me just add a comma. There we go. Now, the XLOOKUP function also gives us the option to dictate how, in which order the function looks for what we asked it to look for. So 1 is, it's always default, by default, it's always on 1. So if we leave this blank, it'll just assume that we want it to search from first to last. That means from top to bottom. That's what happened when we did the search. It went all the way down, looked for Hamburg, couldn't find it, went for the next lowest value, which was Frankfurt. -1 goes the opposite way around, from last to first. And then there are the 2 and the -2. The binary search, which sorts ascending order, or the -2 binary search, which sorted descending order. Now, to use 2 or -2, you must have first organized your data in the ascending or descending order. If you don't do that and you still use 2 and -2, you're going to get the wrong results. These options are all about getting the right results. So, for instance, if I say -2 here, so I've told it doesn't need to find the first -2 here. Let's just see what I've asked it to do. I've told it to find Hamburg, which doesn't exist, and I've told it to look for it in this column, and then give me the values in this manager emails column. If it can't find it, to tell me I couldn't find it. But if it couldn't find it, I've asked it to find the next lowest value alphabetically speaking. And I've told it that, hey, listen, I've already organized this in descending order. Now, I haven't. So am I going to get the right result? Let's see. Catherine Bremen. Well, it's a no-brainer. She's from Bremen, which means that it hasn't gotten the right response. It should have found Frankfurt, but it searched from here and then went to Bremen. So it doesn't work correctly. So the message here is that it matters what options you set here. Otherwise, you will still get results, but you might get wrong results. Now, as great as XLOOKUP is, the problem is that it's only available on Microsoft Office Excel 2019 onwards or on the online version. And sometimes some of your clients might have databases that are not that new, or they might have systems that don't have Office 2019 onwards. In that case, you have to use VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP. But since you've learned XLOOKUP, it's going to be a piece of cake for you to use VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Just going to show you VLOOKUP for a second, and you can see how simple it is. So let's do a VLOOKUP search. Okay, so let's just take a look at that. I want the manager of one of the stores of a Hamburg store. Okay. Equal sign as always, because we want to input a function, and then VLOOKUP and open parenthesis. So remember, VLOOKUP looks for the data vertically, so it goes from up to down and returns the first value that it finds. VLOOKUP. Okay, so lookup value. What are you looking for? I'm looking for Hamburg. Okay. What is the table area that you want to look for? So what is the region that I should be looking for? Now remember, unlike XLOOKUP, where we just defined the column that we wanted it to find Hamburg in, here we have to choose the entire table or the entire range where we want other values to come for us as well. Here we have to choose the entire range or the entire table where we want the search to happen in. You'll understand why in a second. So this is our table. Comma, and then column index number. This is why you had to choose the whole table. It's telling us which column number should I return a value from. Well, I want the manager name, so that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The column numbers are basically which one comes first, which one comes second. So city is the first column, the index number is 1, whereas manager is the 6th column, so its index number is 6. So I'm going to put 6 here. And then now the thing is that the column that we choose for the index number or the column index number has to be within the table array. If we hadn't chosen the entire table, we could not have selected the manager column or column number 6 for our response. All right, let's put a comma, and then next it's asking me for the range lookup, which basically means whether we want an approximate match or an exact match, just like what we had before. So I'm gonna ask for an exact match. False, and then if I press enter, it's telling me that Max Schmidt is the manager of the first store that I found in Hamburg. Let's just take a look at that. Yeah, this is Hamburg, and sure enough, Max Schmidt is the manager. And it's the same story with HLOOKUP. The difference here is that VLOOKUP looks vertically, whereas HLOOKUP looks horizontally. It mostly depends on how you've organized your data. Now you might be asking yourself, instead of going through all of this fuss, why not just press Command F or Control F if you're using a Windows and just use the find document operation? Just use the find windows here. It does even have an advanced search, which you can change some of the features of your search. Well, the thing is that once you learn to use functions, you'll see that they work much faster than these operatives in Microsoft Excel. And also they will give you far more options to find the exact thing that you're looking for, especially since you can use regex with them as well. So that's finding with you. Play around with the different options, with the elements that it gives you. Try to make some spelling mistakes on purpose and see what happens. Use the different options that you have in these search functions. Until next lesson, goodbye.